capitalistic society continues to F me up because I continue, like, I got a job again, right? I work again. So, of course, now that means that I have purpose, right? Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of mentality that you have been ingrained to think throughout your whole life. And this is something that continued to bother me whether I was unemployed or employed, or like there's just so many different, like, instances where, like, you think about all these times that capitalism has really been something that's, like, terrible in, like, every regard of everything, I guess. So, like, there's so many examples that I can let's start with examples. Just instead of me saying, oh, I have so many examples, let's actually say them. Okay, first of all, the stimulus checks or the unemployment checks, either or. Everyone was like, oh, you should invest that money into something. First of all, don't tell me what to do with my money. Two, if you were a person who wasn't, like, didn't have any money at all, okay, it's crazy how, like, ingrained capitalistic society is in people. Like, when people, like, scam people, they're like, oh yeah, get that bag. Like, it's people glorify getting money or, like, making some kind of profit over so many things. Like, that's how, like, the upselling culture on eBay or any other thing works. Like, where people, like, buy things immediately just to sell it for more money. And, like, while that seems nice and you get some kind of money back, it's not, like, it's arguably immoral. Is it immoral or just, unethical? I don't know. There's, like, the difference. I don't know. I don't remember the difference. I don't care. Like, that's one example. Another example is, like, working. So I live in a smaller state, I guess. Like, in bigger cities, they have bigger hourly wages. And so here, where I live, the hourly wage, like, just 2 years ago was, like, $9, I think. Was it $9? Was it? Or did I make that? Whatever. Imagine giving an hour of your labor for $9. 60 minutes for $9? What? Hold up. You know what? I'm gonna divide that. I'm gonna do the math. You know what? 60 minutes for $9. It's weird because, like, the profit that these companies make is so, like, completely outweighs how much of the effort you put into it. Wait. 9, oh my bad, it's 9 divided by 60, not 60 divided by 9. 9 divided by 60 is 15. That's like 15 cents every minute? What? 15 cents every minute? $9 for 60 minutes of your time? Imagine you... Let's try to, like, convert this into another sense of strenuous activity. So even in, like, that's like, just imagine standing directly upright for an hour for $9. What? An hour. Let's say you're walking for an hour, just completely walking nonstop for an hour. $9. Let's say it's a rough day. It's a really hard day. Everything's busy for some reason. Let's say the whole time you're, like, lightly jogging or just jogging in general for an hour, and you're not a trained body. That's terrible. $9. What? And right now, I make 11 because I think that's, like, I don't know if that's, like, the state mandated hourly wage, because I remember they were, like, increasing it over the years, but $11 for 60 minutes of my time still doesn't seem like enough. And when there was, like, the unemployment checks and everything, people were like, oh, they're making this much more than, like, these people who are, like, working. Like, that's not their fault. And I was still on the side of the people who are unemployed anyways, because I'm like, capitalistic society has drained people of anything that they've ever had any time of their life. So I'm not upset of them getting a little bit more than they should, or a little bit more than they should, and, you know, either spending it on nothing, that, like, just random stuff that they want, or just, you know, like, or just sitting around and not really earning it. So that, I'm like, what? I wasn't against them, but then someone was like, you do realize that $600 for the week is $15 an hour for 40 hours. I'm like, $15 an hour for 40 hours is... And I'm like, and y'all are mad. You are getting vastly underpaid. If transferring that money that they would make for that week was $15 an hour for a full-time job, you are getting incredibly underpaid. If you're upset and that is money that they have not earned to you, I'm like, society has been taking advantage of people for, like, decades. Since the Industrial Revolution or more. And y'all are mad at people making money? I'm like, look, I didn't care what people did with the stimulus check. I didn't care what people would do with the unemployment check. I didn't care. Maybe that's because I was in poverty for some kind of time, and I was like, you know what? I understand that things are stacked up against people all, as a whole. Or maybe just because I'm not, maybe displaced from my experience as a person who was relatively poor for a little bit. Maybe let's just go into a broader perspective. Acknowledging the fact that the system has been stacked against you no matter what, all of your life forever, to everyone. Like, capitalistic society has not been kind to, like, almost everybody in it. How do you not understand that? Even just, like, a well-versed person would probably understand that. Like, are you kidding me? So I was not mad at whatever people were doing. And it's also weird how people were like, I'm like, do you not understand that if someone was poor, like, almost all the time, they wouldn't have done a lot of things that they could have and or needed to have done. Let me tell you, I, as a lower middle class person, lower middle class family, I am not a middle class person. I myself, as a person making money, like as a sole entity being employed, I am, what is it, poor, I think? What would I make? Like 20,000 for the year? I don't know. Not much. It's not much. But like looking, I'm like, do you know, if I live alone, when I live alone, you got me effed. I don't think I'm gonna go to the dentist. Can I afford to go to the dentist? If my job has like something for that, then yeah, I'll go to the dentist. If not, I'm not going to the dentist. I'm not going to the doctor. I'm not going for a monthly checkup. I'm not spending, because to me, that'll seem like things that are pointless. I can be like, you know what, I can brush my teeth myself. If I'm sick, I can eat the fruit necessary to not die. There's probably some pills that I can take, or some little like Tylenol, or anything that I can take so that I won't pass away, and so my teeth don't fall out of my mouth. These things, these other things will seem like extras or unnecessary things, like non-necessities, basically. And I'm like, do people not understand that if you have been behind on those things for like a long time, getting these things now, like getting that extra income, is life-saving. You can, if you want, finally go to the doctor that you've been putting off for like years. You can finally have your 1 year screening of your physical and feel like you're not putting yourself at risk of like skipping a meal because now you have the income to do so. Maybe consider these people also have children. If they have children, they're like, hey, let's get them new shoes, because I, as a parent, feel like I have been letting down my kids, even though I know that they're happy with what they have. I want to give my kids a little bit better than I have, or have had, or have been able to give them for so far. I would like to go out to a better restaurant and give them a nice experience, because I feel like they have felt, like, even though I don't think that they have felt bad about our experience, I feel like I have been letting them down or giving them less than I myself want to give them, because as most parents are, they would love to give their children the world, like good parents, or I guess just parents in general. But you know, like decent parents would want to give their children good things. And so, like, if you have been someone who has been scraping by paycheck to paycheck, even on a 2-person income or just a solo income, having this extra amount of money is complete. Like, I'm like, I don't, like, if you wanted to buy a new TV, good. No, do you not understand how many, like, doing all these spending these bigger things helps you in the long run too? Like, if you spend a little extra money on LED lights, you cut back the cost of your like light expenses by like a little bit for like a couple of years, and it, like, you know, it adds up. It all adds up. So that's why I'm like, people have neglected going to the dentist, because again, as it worked the other way on saving money, that adds up. You spend money. If you have to continue to have to go to the dentist, and like, if you, or you also have kids and you have to take them to the dentist, or like you need to get the checkups for them, or like vaccines, or like anything like that, like those required vaccines, that stuff adds up. That stuff adds up, and like sometimes you'll dread it because you'll be like, wow, I don't want to spend that extra money. So like, or maybe like for school, you were like, hey, it's been like a year or two since we've gotten new clothes. Let's go get new clothes for you. That kind of stuff. Because like, again, your children grow. I myself neglected in my like middle school to like high school age. I neglected bothering or wanting at all. I neglected wanting newer clothes, or clothes that fit me a little better or looser, because I didn't want to put my parents out. I didn't want them to be uncomfortable. I didn't want them to spend even a dime on me. Of course they would if I like said anything or wanted to, but I didn't speak out. And so they were like, oh, hey, like your clothes is a little tight on you. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And like, I wouldn't say it, and like they wouldn't say it in a way that it was like, oh, it's it bothering you. I think they assumed that like had to do with the gay thing, but whatever. So it's like, I myself didn't speak up at all, or have any desires, any sense of desires, because I understood our situation. Even when I was starting to to convert to vegetarian or veganism, I would not ask my parents for any specific kind of food. I would make do with what we had, which was rice and beans, and I would make do with that for months on end, because I didn't want to ask them anything that would take them out of the cycle of the current money that they would spend on our daily groceries, and, well, not daily, on our weekly groceries. I wouldn't want to put that extra strain on them to accommodate me, because I understood our situation. If you are someone who has been poor or is poor, you do understand that these things, you are living uncomfortably, or at least as comfortable as you can be with the parameters that you are existing in. You are going to neglect yourself from certain things. You are going to limit your amount of things that you buy, that you get, the ways you treat yourself. Like, I don't think when I start to live alone, I am going to go out to restaurants as little as possible. Because again, that adds up. I'm not going to have TV. I'm not going to purchase any single monthly subscription, because I'm only going to buy internet. That's it. Internet. If my parents were more technology savvy, I wouldn't get a phone plan. Because again, with Wi-Fi, I could probably communicate with them in every single aspect that I wanted to. And since most places do have Wi-Fi, I could communicate with them almost anywhere. So, because when are you going to catch me in the middle of a forest, you know? So I do like every single aspect to what trying to save money. And it's disgusting to me that people would be so negative towards people for any of that. I'm like, even going to college, I was like, wow, this is like terrible. People who work full time and go to college, newfound respect for those people. I'm working full time right now, and I've also gone to like college, and I barely even juggled college, and I didn't even have a job. Like, it's not the self-control and everything. But I'm like, working a job and going to college full-time, both, beyond me. I could not. The newfound respect that I have for these people. And, like, I remember I was going to college, and, like, this dude tried to, like, I don't know, some power play, weird, dumb shit. He was like, oh, well, at least, like, I have, like, a job and a place, and, like, my own place. And I was like, are you saying that as if you're, like, proud of that? I'm like, are you saying that as some kind of power play against me? Because I'm like, that's, if we're being honest, it's kind of the bare minimum of what would be expected of anyone, like, in this day and age. And that's also, like, really disingenuous and or insensitive to people who are impoverished. And don't get me wrong, I'm in a decent financial standing now, or our family is in a decent financial standing now. But I'm also like, you being proud of having a job and having a place, like, that's what everyone's in. And also, weren't you like complaining to me like not even a while ago that you're living paycheck to paycheck, which seems really weird to me now, because they were making really like good hourly wages plus like a bonus every now and then, like monthly. And I was like, what? I'm like, how are you struggling that much? Because if I was you, if I had the money that you have, and also the place that you have at the rate that you have it, what the money that I would have, what? How are they living uncomfortably? I don't know. It's beyond me, but whatever. So anyways, capitalism has ingrained it into people to make them try to feel ashamed of different things that they have and or don't have, and is being like shameful of or shaming of people who get things that they want, to give them the little bit of satisfaction that they can barely aspire to have and or get, because they have to give away hours of their life to earn these things. And it's kind of gross, because every now and then I think about those things, like when I go get a coffee. If I were to go get a coffee, and if I got a coffee, two coffees at Starbucks would be roughly an hour of my time in labor. An hour of my time. 2 coffees? I would rather die than pay for 2 coffees of an hour of my labor. That's really dumb. And when you put these things into that kind of perspective, it's really exhausting and soul crushing to realize how much businesses are getting away with and underpaying people, and how sad it is. How like the cost of things, like a loaf of bread is like $2. Like, what? $2? That's like 20 minutes of my time. 20 minutes of my time for a loaf of bread. Terrible. Make a garden. Please get a garden if you can. If you can afford seeds and you have a plot of land, make a garden. At least save out on like some kind of vegetable a little bit, because if we have our garden, we make our own like peppers, squash. We used to have strawberries, stuff like that. Like just little things to help you save up. And like, I hate those things that are like, oh, here's little ways to save money. Don't get a coffee every morning at work. If I got a coffee every morning at work, assuming that coffee averaged around $4 to $5 every single day, or every single day I went to work, let's cut out like at least the weekends. So let's say 5 by 4 weeks would be 20. 20 by 5, that's $100 on coffee every month. $100 on coffee every month. Do you think I have that kind of money? What kind of money saving plans are you living in? I buy my clothes from Ross. I'm not going to buy. People who buy full price shoes, $60 for shoes? No, I am going to buy this $30 pair of shoes, and or I'm going to buy a pair of shoes at Walmart or secondhand because I cannot afford. I'm not going to live in, because living in like normal, buying things from like at their actual store value prices, that is luxury and or privilege to me. Do people not understand this? Like, what? And I live in, I could not imagine living in a bigger city where the average pay is like a little bit more, but like the apartments and everything are incredibly more expensive. What? Disgusting. I'm speechless. I'm just speechless at how this continues to exist, and people just continue to live in it despite the fact that almost everyone knows that living in general is like unhappy, and everyone's like, oh yeah, it's just the way things are. Well, it shouldn't be. Like, people, there were unions for this. People striked for this, for rights. The work weeks were a lot more, and pay was, I think, worse. But now, things are more expensive, and pay is barely a little bit better, and college is infinitely more expensive for not even that good of an education. Like, it's disgusting. I'm angry. I'm like, it's just so upsetting. Whatever. Anyone else feel ripped off by just living? Are you kidding me? Oh, bye.